first-time director is the single greatest obstacle to getting a movie made, right? And it's not being cynical. I mean, we have made our biggest success, our most successful films are first-time directors. LIE was the first-time director, Transamerica was the first-time director, Guide to Recognizing the Saints was the first-time director. We made about as many, if not more, films of first-time directors that nobody's ever seen. In general, I mean, those were projects that we really loved, believed in so much that we took on that battle. In general, virtually impossible. And again, it's not cynical, it's just because the director is the head of creative operations and is the one who's sort of in charge of the movie, responsible for what it will be, and a lot of money is entrusted directly or indirectly to that person, and it's very scary to the people that write the checks to have somebody do that who's never done it before. You know, one can't blame anybody for it. That said, every director out there has made their first film, so there's certainly a way, but there is no recipe for it. We, again, have done it a lot of times successfully. We have still projects on our slate that have first-time directors attached. I have to say it's very, very difficult. The ones that we have right now, even though we think that they're very good, may not get made. I mean, we are running into a lot of walls, very difficult. Now, your question was, what is the biggest mistake a director can make when working with a producer? Once you're on your way. Well, I mean, first of all, I would say, hopefully, once that marriage occurs, you two have realized that you love each other, you know, in a creative sense, and what you should be able to expect from your producer is that he protects you and that he helps you a lot. Hopefully, that producer is very, very good. Let's assume for a second it's a very, very good producer. Then let's say he's even a very experienced producer. Then what this producer will do is embed you with a great, strong team, and maybe even have an eye on, you know, what your weaknesses might be, because you will probably not be well-rounded the first time out, and support you, you know, in these weaker areas. And I guess my best way to answer your question is listen to him. Or, you know, a lot of directors are. I mean, I don't know if there's a rule or not, but my personal experience is, and it's probably not true, but some of the better directors I worked with were the most difficult ones, and in terms of personality, and some of the nicer ones that were more pleasant to work with were maybe not quite as good. I don't think that there's a rule. It's maybe my very subjective experience. But I have one particular example in mind right now where we had a very talented director, first-time director, who was incredibly willful, and he did things in very unorthodox ways. And I would say about half the time what he did was just absolutely brilliant, and I didn't see it coming. You know, it's like, what the fuck is he doing? And he did it, and the outcome was fantastic. But half the time it was horrible. You know, it was horribly wrong. So you know, again, it's a marriage, and these relationship that sometimes gets better over time. You know, you need to learn a language with your producer and understand each other. And on this first time out, that's sometimes a little difficult. But if you are less experienced than your producer, then you should, I guess, listen to him or her. Screenplays come to us in many, many different ways. I mean, the agents submit, but people, it's word of mouth. Filmmakers that we work with talk to other filmmakers. So just random, people just email us or send things in the mail, and we are one of the few companies that expose ourselves, because there's a risk involved in that we are taking and reading unsolicited material. We really should not be doing that, but we feel like, and history has sort of proven that we get sometimes on average better material sort of randomly than we get through the agents. And so we read pretty much everything. However, we are also a small company and we get tremendous volume. So it usually takes a long time, and obviously projects that come to us with a certain pedigree, because it comes from somebody that we know, because somebody's attached that brings some value, maybe some money is already attached, maybe a director who has a track record. We will read those a lot faster than the ones that come, you know, randomly to us. And it's one thing that when I said we are developing a much more international slate, it's absolutely not only because we like to travel, but also by design a little bit. I mean, when I'm German, and when I came to America and set up my film production company, one of the declared goals was that I wanted to make international co-productions, and with Europe first and foremost. And then I found out very quickly that didn't exist, because the ways films are made in Europe are very, very different. The way films are financed, very, very different between here in Europe, and then very, very different between all the European countries. Again, because mostly of the language barrier. What has made the film industry so big and powerful in North America is that it has a very, very large domestic market, 150 million people speaking one language, and then a lot of people around the world speaking that language. And when you're a producer in, say, Germany or Italy or France, you have a much smaller, obviously, in-house domestic market, and but the film costs the same, you know? I mean, your potential audience is much smaller, but the cost of production is, let's say, sort of grossly generalized about the same. So a lot of these film industries in these non-English-speaking countries would probably not exist if they weren't heavily subsidized through the things that we talked about, and or television production. And these are mechanisms that well, it has sort of two effects. One, it makes these producers make particular type of film, because they are not necessarily even catering to a market, but they're catering to the jury that decides on their subsidy, or they're catering to the person in charge at the network that wants a particular type of film. So European producers are not particularly trained to be entrepreneurial, to make films the way we make them, with an economic risk. You know, you make an investment into a product and you hope that this product will sell for a profit. It's not the way they necessarily think. Culturally, I mean, in terms of business culture, there have been huge differences, and even capabilities. I mean, if I want to make a movie and I want to co-produce it with somebody in Europe, great would be to have also somebody who co-invests, but they don't necessarily, or used to have equity, I mean, money to invest. So these two systems did not exist. Co-productions, the term co-production really only existed between most European countries, where you have treaties. And basically, these treaties allow them to participate in each other's subsidies, which were all defense mechanisms against North America, right? So when I said I want to do international co-production, I learned very quickly that it didn't exist. And I mean, it seems obvious, but not possible. And that's definitely changing. I think that a lot of European or foreign producers are much more interested now in maybe. I think a lot of producers overseas, once they reach a certain level of success, they're big in their market. They just want to maybe paint on a broader canvas. They want to capture the international audience, and then that forces them out of their national language into English. And when they make more entrepreneurial films, then that forces them into casting movie stars and working with big directors, and all of a sudden they need the connection to North America. And so we as a company are now, or have been already, more or less successfully to position ourselves as one of the gatekeepers, or one of the conduits for international producers into the North American market. And yes, I've been to India, and we're looking very keenly onto the Chinese market, because obviously these markets are emerging and booming. There's obviously very large populations, and particularly India, very, very fond of cinema. But also interesting when you go there that, again, for very different reasons, the way they make films and the types of films they make usually would not travel. But now you have Slumdog, which is sort of the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was for the Chinese market, and there's going to be a lot more interaction.